have an egg on my head. In my last video, I discussed pro-shipping and the issues with it. I stated that dark and taboo subject can definitely be touched upon in media and in art, however it depends on how you do it. If you were to write a comic, for example, and in that comic there was a relationship between an adult and a child, the right way to portray it would be to show that these relationships cannot be healthy and ultimately will end with someone being hurt or abused. Pro-shippers don't do that. Pro-shippers make abusive relationships look happy and healthy and sweet, which ultimately can lead to people believing that these abusive dynamics are okay, especially children believing it. In this video, I want to talk a little bit more in depth about how dark and taboo subjects can be done in ways that are not only effective, but also respectful to the topic itself. I'll be giving some examples along with it and explain why I personally feel these portrayals have been done well or not. Bear in mind, art is always going to be subjective, and this is just my opinion. If you feel I have missed anything or you have better examples, I'd love to see them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Speaking of the comments, I really appreciate that the overwhelming majority in the last video were really respectful, regardless of whether they agreed with what I said or not. That made me really happy to read. So if you watched my Mushroom Girl video, you might have assumed that I don't like dark subject matter in media, which could not be further from the truth. I genuinely love seeing serious topics through the lens of other artists. Of course, it's going to be uncomfortable to look at. If you're not discomforted by it, then maybe some introspection is needed. But I am a full believer in the quote, "Art is meant to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable." I'll make it clear here though, romanticizing abuse is not included. Lolicon is not included. Okay, just so we're on the same page, just so everything's nice and clear, that is not what I'm talking about. That is not okay. I've seen many art pieces and media that have touched on dark subject matter, and while some have done an incredible job, others have completely missed the mark. I have two examples that pop into my head immediately, one being a play called In 1,000 Pieces by the Paper Birds, which I feel not many people will know, and the other is The Painter by Urban Spook, which I'm sure many of you know about, and I'm sure it doesn't need an introduction.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
But we'll get into it soon. When I was a drama student, yes, I was a theatre kid, shut up, my teacher showed us In 1,000 Pieces, a play about a young girl travelling to Britain, hoping to find better opportunities than what she was offered in Eastern Europe. Her journey shows her going through bus routes, train and plane rides before she finally lands in London. She meets her contact in the airport and within minutes, she's attacked. This entire play consists of only 3 actresses playing the same character, and their role is to represent the pain and trauma that a victim of rape and sex trafficking goes through. Obviously, this is a heavy-ass topic, and one that should be taken seriously. At the same time, it's meant to shock you. It's meant to show you what the traffic industry does to its victims, something that the average person doesn't see in day-to-day life, and something that maybe we don't think about that often. I watched this for the first time when I was 15, and my god, it stayed with me since. The way the dark topic is portrayed is nothing short of horrifying. The play manages to show you just how terrifying and awful this scenario is, without even being remotely graphic. The first attack scene is something that I vividly remember. Again, the only people on stage were these 3 actresses, playing the exact same girl. There was no one there to play the attackers. Yet these women managed to show how shocking and horrifying rape truly is without having to display what it looks like. It's a very powerful play, and if anyone is interested, I highly recommend it. To put it simply, In 1,000 Pieces shows how awful trafficking really is, and thus remains respectful to the topic at hand. It doesn't romanticize trafficking or rape, nor does it sexualize either, which, given the very subject, is quite impressive. It connects with the audience and makes the viewer feel for the unnamed girl of the story, and by proxy, for any victim of trafficking. It's shocking and dark, yet effective and respectful. A perfect mixture. Now, obviously, this was kind of a dark topic, and I don't feel like I can really do much funny editing in this video because it's so, so serious. So I'm going to insert a seal clip. Right, now that you're not suicidal anymore, let's get into The Painter. Again, I feel like you probably don't need an introduction for this, but for the few of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll give you a quick rundown. The Painter is a series on YouTube by the artist named Urban Slug, whose YouTube name is Urban Spook. It's an analog horror series that serves as a portfolio for Slug's art, which honestly, the art is really good, which is one of the reasons why this whole thing kinda sucks. The other reason why it sucks is because the idea of the painter is actually really cool. It's about a murderer who paints his victims during or after the crime has been committed. Like, it's genuinely a good idea for a story, but the problem is that Urban Slug is terrible at storytelling. There's barely any continuity, no fluidity, the story just jumps from one crime to the next, and because Slug is a fucking edgelord, he puts shock value above everything else. And here's the thing, shock is good, like I've said, when it's effective. But with the painter, it's not effective in the slightest. When using shock value, you want to leave the viewer feeling, well, shocked, and you want them to leave thinking about the topic. You want them to leave thinking, wow, you know, I never saw that in that way. Or, holy shit, I didn't realize how bad that scenario really is until now. You don't want the viewer getting shocked and then thinking, damn, that's fucking nasty. I can't watch this anymore. And then they click off. And that's all Slug has achieved. So many people stopped watching the series after the episode that I'm going to be talking about because he did it in such a way that was so disgusting and weird that it just made people feel like the guy behind the art is a fucking creep. So what was the episode that really started to make people turn against Urban Slug? It was episode 3, In the Walls.
He's in the walls. He's in the goddamn wall!
In the Walls introduces a character by the name of Corey Beck. Something that I haven't mentioned yet is that each painting is titled, usually referencing the death of their victim along with their name. And you'll never guess what Corey's painting is called. Fuck Toy Corey. I'm not joking. During the analysis of the dead body, they find that Corey's genitals had been mutilated. All that paired with the fact that the painting itself has, swollen lips. I think it's pretty obvious by now that Corey was not only brutally murdered, but also sexually abused by the killer. And the kicker is that Corey is an 11-year-old boy.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Again, I am not joking. I wish I was. But I am not. Childhood sexual abuse is a very, very hard topic to cover in any sort of art form. Or at least I feel like it would be difficult. But like every other dark topic, it can be portrayed as long as it's, again, respectful and effective. This is not it. Just like pretty much every other victim in the story, nothing comes from Corey's death. It's just, kid is introduced, kid is assaulted, next victim. That's it. There's nothing else. Well, that's if you don't count the fact that Urban Slug went on to sell the Fuck Toy Corey painting in his merch shop. Now I get it, a lot of his paintings were created before the painter, and yes, he wants to promote and sell his work. However, if that is the case, maybe don't associate one of your pieces to a literal victim of child rape and murder. Like, I don't know about you, but personally, I wouldn't want to buy that painting after having watched In the Walls and knowing what the painting means. No fucking chance. But back to Corey's episode. There is no direction to his story. The killer thus far has no MO, he just kills whoever, however, and now suddenly he's a child molester too? Did Urban Slug need to include pedophilic sex crimes into his series? In some stories, there will be a need for this kind of narrative, as that's what the story is about, or because the story is heavily influenced by the dark plot points. Just like in 1,000 Pieces, the story is about sexual abuse and sex trafficking, so naturally it's going to involve themes of that nature. But with the painter, a lot of what Urban Slug puts in his series seems so unnecessary and out of nowhere. From my perspective, it seems as though Slug only made these piss-poor decisions because he wanted to capitalize off of the shock value, which leads me to believe that this was entirely exploitative and in bad taste. As I was writing this script, I found that Creepcast had recently done an episode on Urban Spook where they touch on this very topic. So I recommend going to look at that video if you're interested in what I'm talking about, but don't quite want to watch the series yourself.
The police found one of his daughters hanging by the neck from the ceiling in the attic. Well, that's not good. She was only 2 months old.
Is something funny, Hunter?
The baby was swinging in the attic, attached to the ceiling fan at the highest speed. So I just imagine it's like around the deal.
Oh, also, Corey's twin sister had a brick with the word meat shoved down her throat when she was killed. Take of that what you will. I could cover many more examples of media that presented dark topics poorly, like Megan is Missing. How the lack of direction and the needlessness for the atrocities committed just feels like the creator was fetishizing the whole thing from the start. I could also give many more examples of media that I think did an amazing job at using shock value to further push their narrative in an effective way, like Save Ralph, and how you can even use humor and graphic visuals still succeed in sharing your message in a respectful but powerful manner.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? Yeah.
I could even give you a bunch of examples. Is that a spider? Okay, I could even give you a bunch of examples of paintings and comics and animations that I think did an amazing job as well, but I think I've rambled on long enough and I hope that I have expressed my points clearly. This is something that I've been exploring myself more and more as an artist, and something I myself am trying to figure out. I think the best thing when creating something based on such dark themes is to ask yourself, who is my target audience? Where will my work be seen? And what is necessary for my piece? That's helped me a lot when I've had to come up with pieces like this for university and such. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you managed to listen to me ramble on this long, I really appreciate it. And hopefully I will see you next time.